Dwayne and Jake,
Take
two.
Post coffee spill.
I like that.
Oh, I'd rather hire a single person or a duo than a band these days. Do you see that being a trend?
It's rough out there.
It is.
It's rough out there. Well, first of all, one trend that I'm noticing is that young people drink a lot less than we did. We did. So
you can't afford to get drunk at a bar.
Right?
Go broke.
You're going. It's like $10 beers.
Yeah.
You know, no tip. And they're not doing it the way, and they shouldn't be either, because it's when you get your license, it's zero tolerance for alcohol for I don't know how many years.
I think it's about 2 years
at least, right? So.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, there's cops everywhere, and nobody wants a criminal. Good, nobody should drive drunk anyway.
Yeah.
So they're just it's become part of the culture that kids they'll go out and they'll spend $15 on a mocktail, but they'll have one mocktail, two mocktails. That's it. We used to go out and pictures and shots, and it's not like that anymore. So the bars and the pubs are the places that can afford to hire bands because they have food, because they sell food, they make a little more money. So it's a changing dynamic. So pubs would rather have a solo or a duo if you can fill up the place than have a band, which is sad because there's nothing better than playing with a band. It's the interaction of the three musicians or the four musicians. Yeah. But it's economics, and that's a hard reality.
Now, along that same theme, how many years have you been playing in public?
Professionally?
Since what year, roughly?
I would say, I got out of university in '92. So it was not long after that. So since the mid '90s, but I missed the whole
'80s, '70s.
Yeah, well, I was in school all that time,
but you were going to the pubs and watching the bands at that time, right?
Yes.
Okay, that might.
Well, I mean, I used to go to the bars like when I was underage. Like I was 50, I was 5'11" at 15 years old. So
you can get in there.
So I could get in. I had my long hair, and I put my buddy with the beard up in front of me.
Yeah.
And we would get into these. So I would see live bands. Since
so you knew
1980.
Okay, so you know what the atmosphere, not the atmosphere, what the scene is like.
Yeah.
Talk about the scene today as opposed to then, and I'll put in my input because Frank over here had a band, and I had friends that had bands then. And back then in the 70s and 80s, you could play 5-6 nights a week, 3, maybe 4 sets a night in any given pub or bar.
Yes.
What's it like now? One night? You get a Friday, a Saturday?
It's one-nighters. I mean, personally, as a solo, I can play 7 nights a week if I want. There's places around, and if you're a go-getter and you hustle, you could play. I don't want to. I would rather pick and choose my... I'm at a point right now where I can afford to do that. So, But, it's one-nighters, and it's usually a bar gig. You cannot afford to put a band on the road anymore.
No.
Because gas, food, lodging... it's astronomically expensive, and nobody can afford to pay.
In a country as big as ours, you have to pick your area first of all,
exactly.
Right? Quebec, Eastern Ontario.
Exactly. Exactly. And back in the day, do you remember the mustache on Library Classe? I used to go there.
I was scared to go in there. I bought hash in there.
It was my home. Run! It was my home.
That was my second home. I was underage the whole time. They used to let me in.
Station 10 around the corner?
Station 10. So we would go there, and there would be a band from Thursday to Sunday.
That's
it was a 4-nighter.
Same band.
Right?
Yeah.
They would make, back then, for a 4-piece band, they would make $2,000.
That's right.
Right?
Money back then.
So back then in 1980, 81, guys were making $125 a night. That was
good money.
That was in '83 I had my first job. My entire week's pay for 40 hours was $140.
Yeah.
These guys were making that per night, 4 nights in a row. So these guys, you could afford to put a band on the road in a truck with a sound tech and a roadie, and you could make a living. You could have a mortgage. You could raise a kid.
Yeah.
That does not exist anymore.
Does not happen anymore.
And not only that, the younger generation is not into live music the same way we are. They're into DJs, Dead Mouse, guys like that. These are the rock stars of today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I bring this up because when I was going through the questions myself, and then Frank was, showing me some questions he had an idea with, and we were talking about the Montreal music, which we were talking about now, going back, because that's my age, was 70s, 80s.
Right.
You playing in the 90s, so we all know about it. And before our interview started, I brought up John McGale. A couple of years ago, he was at the radio station. I bumped into him,
right?
And because he was being interviewed by our blues guy,
okay.
And I said, "What happened in the music scene?" And this is his take on it, which is very interesting because he goes back to what, early '70s, playing in Offenbach and everybody else he played with. So John said, in the '70s, band, and then disco started in the late '70s. So in the late '70s, '80s, the bars were going, "Well, wait a minute. Why would I put a 4 or 5 piece band? I can hire one DJ to play disco, and it's going to bring in the crowds who are going to dance." Right?
That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Then in the '90s, wait a minute, I can put TVs in here, and they'll watch sports.
Yeah.
So I don't even need that damn DJ.
Yeah.
You know, and he says that's what the progression is until it is what it is.
That's the point of view of somebody who's been in the business for a very long time.
That's right.
That's very, very astute.
Now my son's band, he doesn't have a cover band. He plays, him and his buddies play their own music.
Original music.
I convinced him to throw a few cover tunes in there to get the audience attention. But that being said, the only bars in town in Montreal, there's very few that will take them, and it's pay to play. You better be 3 bands and out of here at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to pay for the barmaid, you have to pay for
Pay
security, you gotta pay for a sound guy.
Get your girlfriend to sell tickets and CDs.
Exactly, exactly. And then try to divvy that up between all the bands.
Oh, they made $40 one night. We're thrilled.
Well, that's actually a good night. We can afford to buy a pizza after the show.
Right.
You know, that's a good
But
night.
that's
for a
how
virtual
things
band.
have changed.
It's
though,
really
you
changed
know?
a lot. Yeah.